this could be. I haven't seen my Super Nintendo since 2003. That's alright, I don't mind. I've got a Switch in the old SwitchAroo. My friend Mike and Jaymo too.
Well, come back to the old switcher. We're talking gaming retro with Mike and Jaymo.
I'm confused.
And I'm Jaymo. I was trying to introduce us to kind of the tune of the music from the game. Thank you guys for joining along on our epic quest to research and review all 300 plus games in the Nintendo Classics catalog. Today we are boosting and bumping through F-Zero and F-Zero 99 in an episode we are calling Crashing Out, parentheses, no Gen Z, not like that, asterisk, well, kind of like that, semicolon, this game is effing difficult, ellipses. Mike, you're making a face.
Yeah, I don't know what other ways this is meaning.
Well, crashing out. Do you know what when the kids say they're gonna crash out? Do you understand?
No?
Okay, I work with teenagers. Some of my listeners know that. Crashing out means you're about to just, from stress and disappointment and just frustration, you're about to give up. And man, in F-Zero, you crash out and then you crash out. Am I right? I'm right here. Mike, we're exploring some wild new planets today on a race through the stars. I don't know about you, but I think we could use a guide. Do you know any frontier experts? The wetter, the better.
Continue your flourish here.
I will continue my flourish. Today we got Chico from the wetfrontier.com. He does a webcomic that I would love for him to tell us about. Chico, welcome to the show, and please let us know who you are.
Howdy, howdy, howdy. E321 go. Oh, I be Chico Del Mar. Or I be the author of a webcomic called Wet Frontier, and I be pretty dang old, and I've been losing the accent, and so I'm not sure what that's for. Or hello there. I draw a webcomic called Wet Frontier about web mermaids in the Wild West.
It's so good. It's so good. I am obsessed with your art style. Like it's a little bit of like Looney Tunes. I get like hints of Splatoon in there. And you said on your site that you were influenced by 90s Disney comic adaptations. As an artist, have you found that there's a video game or retro cartoon that you were particularly inspired by?
Oh, well, I mean, Little Mermaid for one is the retro cartoon that inspired me. And I think the retro video game that inspired me the most is probably Jack and Daxter, which is definitely constitutes retro these days.
It does.
That came out in 2001.
Yeah, it's wild how like PlayStation 2 games are retro because like we all remember when that was cutting edge. Some of you guys know I do the cover art for the Old SwitchAroo podcast, but I think anyone can tell it's mostly tracing, right? But Chico, your stuff is really next level. I was particularly struck by the splash page where you're introducing your readers to the Siren Saloon for the first time. Such a cool visual. I mean, just we have the light breaking through the, kind of skylight. You got the jellyfish chandelier, but my favorite detail, Mike, if you can check this out, the bar tables go up the wall because this is an underwater setting. And I feel like so many storytellers and artists, they forget to take advantage of the rich underwater setting. Have you ever thought, Chico, of turning this into a video game? Because I know you've done some cool pixel art for it.
Oh, I would love nothing more than to make a point and click adventure game. That just
Oh,
reminds me, that's yes, I was inspired especially by Sierra point and click adventure games. Get that Lucas Arts stuff. No, I love Lucas Arts,
yeah.
arts, but like I love them both.
Mike, you played those, didn't you?
Yeah, especially like King's Quest and stuff was the first introduction to just you're never figuring this out on your own, have a guide.
Yeah, you called it Moon Logic.
I mean that is the accepted term for that.
But it makes so much sense, Chico, that you said that because when you look at your beautiful comic, and everyone check it out, wetfrontier.com, this could be a background of a point and click game. It's that beautiful. Have you guys heard of Blazing Dragons by any chance?
Isn't that game that's based on that cartoon, or was the cartoon based on the game?
It stars some Monty Python voice actors, And it's a
Yes.
point and click animated one that it's your comic reminds me of that in a very good way.
Yeah, I know what game you're talking about. That had a cartoon too.
Yeah, I forgot about the cartoon. Chico, look, everyone join our Discord because Chico just comes in there with after every episode, just has the coolest behind the scenes trivia and Yakuza connections. And it's like your knowledge puts ours to shame, but we're gonna do our best today.
Okay, Terry Jones.
Yeah, Terry Jones in Blazing Dragons. If it's a Steam thing, Mike, I mean, look, how many games do you own at Steam at this point? Like a couple thousand?
Yeah, too many.
Well, if you got room in your heart for one more, Blazing Dragons. I lived it as a kid. I had it on the Sega Saturn. Shout out to the Sega Saturn. And it won't be the only Sega Saturn shout out today. Well, gentlemen, here, these hovering hockey pucks, they're not going to crash themselves. Are we ready to hit the turbo boost?
Oh, you crashed your machine.
Ready? Yeah, race just started. That tracks for these games, right, Mike? Am I right?
Yeah.
Guys, let's start off with F-Zero on the SNES, released in 1991. According to Nintendo Classics, speed into the future with the first installment to the F-Zero series. Operated by their own designated racer, including the celebrated Captain Falcon, pick one of 4 proton-powered hover cars, each with its own acceleration curve and design modifications. Strategy will play a big part in this speed fest as you race across 15 courses filled with challenges and pitfalls. Find shortcuts, elude hazards, and snag power-ups if you want to beat the competition. Keep an eye out for sand, landmines, magnets, and other trouble spots, but always be ready for that boost from a speed or jump plate to get ahead. You'll need split-second reflexes to control these speed machines of tomorrow, so get ready for an experience that's out of this world. Pretty hype, pretty hype. I'm here for it.
These are modern descriptions on these usually, right?
Yeah, they are written. This was written for Nintendo Classics on the Nintendo Switch. So this is written in 2023, presumably.
Okay, I just can't help but feel that whoever wrote "you'll need split-second reflexes to control these speed machines," some part of their brain was influenced by the Phantom Menace line. You must have Jedi reflexes if you can fly pod racers.
Wow. That's funny because I went with the other Star Wars connection, which is hating sand so much. Because it's like looking for landmines, magnets, sand. It's like Anakin gets it. He hates sand. All right. Well, since the box art was often people's first impressions, let's take a look at the North American one. Captain Falcon is zooming his machine, the Blue Falcon, past the customer, while Samurai Goro is in his Fire Stingray hovercraft, hitting a jump from behind, while the futuristic skyscrapers of Mute City loom in the background. Chico, you're the real artist of the bunch here. What's your take on this illustration?
So, growing up as a kid, I always thought that someone was biting the letters.
Oh, yeah.
Or it's like it certainly didn't look futuristic to me, even though I know like the chrome, and we all know chrome is the color of the future.
Sure is.
But like it just looked like someone bit the letters.
So for those who can't see it, was referring to is that the F-Zero logo is, as he said, chromed, but it's also dented. And I really like that because I think it communicates that you're going to crash and bounce around in this game. And there's nothing cooler than a futuristic spaceship with a bunch of battle damage, right, Mike? Don't we love the Star Wars, like the Star Tours ride, and it starts off and you see the laser burned Star Tours vehicle. What's the name of that vehicle? I'm sure you know.
I did. This is worse. I was literally on it 2 days ago.
Star Cruiser or something. Like, no, that's bigger. That's much bigger. But anyway, Mike, do you like this cover art?
Well, actually, like I don't get the sense of like dents or anything out of that. Like the text actually it looks cool, but it doesn't feel like it connects to the game to me.
Okay.
Like I think that's something between I don't know if it's something to do with coloration or whatnot, but like it feels weird but distinct.
It feels separated from the rest of the artwork.
Yeah.
I can see that.
There is something that always bothers me about some of this art from the Super Nintendo era. It was the heavy airbrushing and that like became a style. This looks like as if it was drawn by the same artist who would eventually do the Mega Man 7 and box arts, or a lot of the Mega Man box arts that were incredibly airbrushed.
Yeah.
There was a lot of that in the 90s.
Well, I can see, your artwork is so crisp, and you can,
Mhm.
and everything is so clear in this really cool way. I could see why you're like, not a fan of that. I like it. I really like the sense of speed. I like that you really get a lot of elements of the game on here. You've got the hovercraft machines front and center. You have the pilots, which is really more a thing about the manual. We'll get to that later. But you got this comic book speed lines, you got the hitting the jump, you've got the futuristic city in the background. I think it sells the game pretty well. I don't know if I can say the same for the Japanese cover. Would you guys agree that this is worse? It's a Japanese box art with a more comic book style. It adds Pico and Dr. Stewart to the tracks. Now there's four racers, as well as floating head portraits of all four player characters. Mike, what's your take on this one?
I think the way this puts the characters that central,
Yeah.
to me, this conveys a game that you're actually going to be dealing with them as characters more than just contents of vehicles. I'd expect there to be either character arcs that you're dealing with or something more than just the racing, the way that sort of shifts the focus.
This is art, like definitely there's one thing that I've always felt like F-Zero kind of has struggled with is that you don't really, at least for the earliest games, you don't really know who the racers are. Or like you see Captain Falcon and Samurai Goro in the other cover art, but you sort of only see them as very tiny things. And for all a customer knows, they're just generic racers. Whereas this one makes them much more distinct. And like right there, it's like, oh, this is the guy with the red helmet and the eagle on the head.
There's things I like about this. It has the comic book. Chico, you're a comic book artist. What's the term for when you write out the sound of, is just, would you call it just a sound effect or
Just sound effect. You'd call it a sound effect.
like the boom of Pico hitting the side of the track and then scraping around the other racers? You can even see in the distant background the pit drone is healing some, racer back there. But I just think like, yeah, it's cluttered and I agree, it's kind of misleading because these pilots are not present in the game at all. In fact, Captain Falcon is only mentioned by name if you beat it on the highest difficulty.
Actually, I could tell you something later where Captain Falcon is in the game.
Okay. Ooh. I mean, can you tell me now? Is it like a spoiler?
Well, I mean, like you see, if you look at his machine, the blue, oh shucks, the blue Falcon. If
Yeah.
you look at his machine from behind, you'll see this in the cockpit. You'll see this little stick figure thing rotating left and right, in the vehicle. Well, that's him turning as he's driving the vehicle. Oh no, and he's the only racer that you can see that with.
I never caught that. I have to look at it again. So you're saying he's actually present in the sprite work,
Yes.
at least via silhouette almost.
Yeah, he's there via silhouette. And I think there's like a little slight hint of the pink of his helmet. It like that you can
Ah,
sort of see in the silhouette a little bit, I think.
see, you need the eye of an artist to know things like that. I never would have caught that.
And I actually know who the artist is who drew this cover art.
The Japanese one or the North American?
The Japanese one.
Oh, who is it?
Arthur Nichols was one of the artists of Valiant Comics. He actually passed away recently. As of January 2025.
Well, R.I.P.
Yeah.
I'm glad you were able to pay tribute to him.
It's very interesting too because he worked on some of the Nintendo comics from the time period. So like it's interesting that he had connections to the Japanese artwork.
Yeah.
That's just like one of the interesting things, huh?
And I assume he also worked on the comic that's in the instruction manual.
Oh yeah, this is his art.
Yeah. And so Mike, you're Mr. Instruction Manual. You must have enjoyed this one.
This definitely is one of the stronger examples we've seen of a manual that really is meant to do the world building that the game couldn't really do. Since this has like a full, like, pages of comic book stuff, it's not even just, here's the bios of characters and stuff, which I also realize now I'm curious if one of those one of the pilots has very clearly the rising sun flag of the Japanese Empire,
Oh, I
which
didn't catch
there's
that.
a lot of there's been a sort of a push to stop using that.
Yeah.
Yes, that is the rising sun flag, and yes, in future appearances after this, after the early games, he doesn't have that anymore.
Did they just switch it to a modern Japanese flag, or did they go somewhere totally different with it?
The modern Japanese flag, I believe.
Okay.
It's interesting though, because Samurai Goro, the character they're referring to, it's mentioned that he is a like scavenger whose like real identity and his origin story no one really knows. So like I'm not saying it's okay to have, but like there could be a case to be said where it's like he's not wearing that out of like actual, pride or association with it. He's like scavenged that from somewhere and still shouldn't be wearing it, you know what I mean? But it's interesting that the character who sort of has a nebulous background is the one who's having the problematic imagery. Well, so let's go ahead to some background information on the game. It was developed and published by Nintendo and directed by Kazunobu Shimizu, excuse me. I enjoyed his work on Season 1's Zelda 2: The Adventure of Link, and appropriately enough, he was also a game designer for the Game Boy Color port of smashing game time favorite Star Wars Episode 1 Racer. Mike, did you know that this game was on Game Boy Color?
No.
Yeah, it's wild. Chico, did you ever play Episode 1 Racer, the Star Wars racing game for N64?
Uh-uh. I've seen it, but never played it. Never even had an N64, but that's part of my backstory.
Gotcha, gotcha. Well, so this is, top down because the Game Boy Color couldn't handle, 3D graphics, obviously, being an 8-bit console. But what's interesting is that the game did have two really unique things. It had a built-in rumble pack on the cartridge, which, like, the fact that the cartridge can rumble and not get disconnected from the machine, kind of impressive. And it also features 4 seconds of full motion video taken directly from Phantom Menace, which I think makes Jake Lloyd the only actor in history to appear in a Game Boy game, like his actual visage. Someone leave a comment if you can think of any other ones. Or Chico, anything come to mind? You always seem to know the answer to these things.
Nuh-uh.
So I thought that was kind of neat here. And first and foremost, for our knowledge as Nintendo Power Trivia, the title F-Zero. I've known about the F-Zero series for over 30 years. I never realized until reading the introduction to the manual that F-Zero is a portmanteau of F1 racing and zero gravity. Did you guys put that
Mhm.
together? I never realized that.
Oh, I've heard of that.
Okay.
I hadn't, and it did feel sort of obvious, or it felt sort of obvious that it was F1 related. I'm
Right.
less certain about that making sense to lower the number.
Right. You think it'd be F1000.
Yeah.
Zero gravity.
Right. Yeah, yeah. But I think that's why our brains didn't go there, is that and
Mhm.
also the fact that the title, it's like it's written out. I don't think you often see FONE, right? It's either F numerical one or Formula One. But I felt silly when I realized that. It was sort of, Mike, you've mentioned this before, it was like a thing that was sort of hiding in plain sight.
Yeah.
In addition to being an SNES launch title in both North America and Japan, F-Zero was also included in the oft-forgotten Nintendo Super System. Chico, you heard of this thing before?
Oh, do I know this thing?
Helma, tell our listeners about the Nintendo Super System arcade cabinet.
Well, this this is how this is my first ever video game system.
Shut up.
This arcade cabinet is the thing that you would have in a strip mall somewhere, air low penny arcade. It's just somewhere where some little kid who's too poor to afford a console at the time, could just play a game of Super Mario World or F-Zero or Super Mario Kart on a time limit for every quarter that you put in there.
Yeah. And it didn't matter if you were doing well, right? The game would just pause after 10 minutes and ask for another quarter.
Yep. It doesn't matter how good you were doing, it was just a time demo.
And you played these like in the wild back in the day?
Oh, yes, it was in my local strip mall. Oh, this was my first exposure to F-Zero and Super Mario World and Super Mario Kart. And those buttons.
Yeah, it's got like
Oh,
a big version of the SNES controllers attached to it.
oh man, looking at this thing is nostalgic to me.
Oh, I hope in a good way. Mike, can you see in this image the other game? So it shipped. You could arcade owners could download new titles like Chico said Mario Kart would be available as well via this, but it shipped to arcades with Super Mario World, which we covered earlier this season, F-Zero, which we're covering now obviously, and the third game, Mike, can you tell which it is?
No, not on the size of that image.
Super Tennis, which is one of our most hated games from season one. So it's like banger, banger, bleh, I don't know.
Although was that was the one where they were really leaning in on the ability to like swing the camera around and stuff, right?
Yeah, the Mode 7 graphic would zoom in on the net every time you switch sides. But it also, was the game that, we just didn't find very engaging at all, except for the weird, depressing ending where you're locked outside your house until it collapses in shame.
I think you mean the amazing ending.
Well, I mean, also is because it spent most of the time showing off the graphics.
Yes, you're both right. Amazing ending showing off the graphics, but the gameplay it's just weird because that we just enjoyed it so little that you got, I think, two very classic games and then a third one. Listen, if you're a defender of Super Tennis, come at me in the comments, okay? We could use the engagement. Speaking of attention-seeking behavior here, according to a developer interview posted on VG247.com, F-Zero protagonist Captain Falcon was originally designed as the mascot for the Super Nintendo system. His OG costume had elements of blue, red, yellow, and green, or in other words, the four signature colors of the Famicom system. They were the buttons on the actual controller. But when it was decided that Falcon would be the lead for F-Zero specifically, they ditched the green elements of his costume to give him a primarily blue look, which matched with his signature blue Falcon machine. However, the Super Famicom color scheme is still preserved across the roster, as the other machines are red, green, and yellow color schemed, as are the pilots. Mike, did you ever notice that?
No, because I always took that as pink.
Samurai Goro's Fire Stingray, you see it as a pink hovercraft.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, but like y'all see what I'm referring to here, right? Because Super Mario World did a similar thing. The Switch Palaces, red, blue, green, and yellow. Red, blue, green, and yellow was like this kind of motif through a lot of early Super Nintendo titles.
I mean, I think there's also just that like those are the same four colors that like Sorry uses. Like I think if you're going to pick four colors, it is those four.
All right.
So I think I think it's such a common move that I feel like it doesn't jump out as, oh, this is their theming. It's like, yeah, what you're gonna do, orange or purple instead?
Especially in the game.
Chico, am I crazy?
I mean, like, you're not, but like, it's definitely harder, especially in the game where the Fire Stingray is so pink ink. Like, it's very hard to tell. Maybe if they were selected in a diagonal format, like the buttons instead of the line.
Okay, I could see that. Yeah. You know who will know for sure? Defunct Games. If you're listening, I'll bet you know. So leave a comment. And so, one more piece of trivia for y'all. Much like how Mario Kart started as a generic go-kart racer that later adopted the Mario characters simply for visual clarity, the original design for F-Zero was going to be a futuristic car racer inspired by the 1989 Batmobile. But the task of animating moving tires from 32 different angles proved to be way too time and resource intensive, so the design team decided to scrap the tires and make the vehicles hover, leading to countless imitators over the years, such as Wipeout on the PlayStation, Aero Gauge on the N64, and Strauss family favorite Cyber Speedway on the Sega Saturn forever. Well, before we get into the Joy Pros and Joy Cons of F-Zero on the SNES, what's our history with this game and how far did we each get? So, Chico, can we start with you?
Yeah, sure. I'll tell you my history. It all started with that arcade machine. It was in my local strip mall. Oh, it didn't even have an arcade. It was literally just there for little kids who were left behind by their parents while they were out shopping for groceries. And I would play that arcade machine all the time. I mean, I mostly played Super Mario World and a bit of Super Mario Kart. Every now and then I would get bored and play F-Zero and usually die a lot and a lot and a lot and a lot. Never got very much anywhere. And just like, that was like my first and major exposure to that SNES game. And it wasn't really until probably 2 years ago I really rediscovered it on the Nintendo Classics.
Nice. Was that prior to F-Zero 99? Because that also came out 2 years ago.
It was it was around the time of 099, really, because like I just wasn't that interested in the OG SNES game.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. And Mike, had you ever tried this game before? Oh, sorry, Chico. Have you? So we agreed that beating F-Zero, and Admiral J in the chat chimed in as well. Beating F-Zero means that you have rolled credits on every league. There are three little tournaments on the cartridge. Each one has 5 races. So if you beat it at least expert difficulty, credits will roll. So, Chico, have you ever beaten this game? Have you ever beaten all 3 leagues on expert difficulty?
Nope. Oh, never. The furthest I can go without rewinding is standard.
Okay. Yeah, that's how far I got too without being a cheating bastard. I am proud to say, though, that I beat all 3 leagues on standard, like Chico can too. Through rewinding and save states, I Nintendo did beat all of the tracks on expert level.
Nintendo! Family Computer!
And I went back and played them again on the most difficult setting, which is master difficulty, to get the personalized message from Captain Falcon at the end. That's the only thing that's different, is that the text changes. I forgot to say, my first encounter with this game was on the eShop, the Wii eShop. I downloaded that when it was included in the eShop many years ago at this point, but I didn't know Captain Falcon was a thing until he was a mysterious challenger in the original Smash Brothers on the N64. So that's how I heard of F-Zero. I tried it on the Wii, and then I finally beat it on the Switch. Mike, what's your F-Zero history?
So like a lot of games that were Nintendo games, like Smash Brothers was my first encounter with the character.
Mhm.
And honestly, I don't think I knew what game he was from.
Yeah, same.
Oh, yeah, this guy.
It doesn't scream like, oh, that's got to be a racing game guy, because his whole thing is punching. And so then with the actual F-Zero franchise, my first exposure was F-Zero 99.
Yeah.
And so that certainly will color a lot of this. That then for playing F-Zero, that's only been for this, which, I mean, my entirety of playing this game was on stream, and it hit a point where I'm like, you know what, I'm just going to go play F-Zero 99 now.
Okay, so you discovered it because of the Battle Royale re-release that we'll be covering in the second half of this episode.
Yes.
And so you did not did so I don't mean this in like a shitty way, but like did you beat any of the leagues on SNES?
No, at the point I was at, I was getting through 4 tracks and then reached a track that I have never finished in a race against other racers, since the tracks basically are the same on F-Zero 99. And it was like, oh, good, no, it's this thing. This isn't happening.
You know what you did, Mike? You crashed out. You crashed out, as the kids would say.
F-Zero GX has F-Zero X specifically has a very appropriate sound effect for that noise.
What is it? I had that game.
Too bad you lost your machine.
Yeah, I remember. That was a good imitation. I like that. I like that, Chico. I see you. Well, so for those who aren't on our Discord, Chico's an expert on so many different franchises, but you picked F-Zero as one of your starting ones here. What do you like about F-Zero on the SNES?
How much stupid lore there is behind the scenes, but none of it is actually in the game itself. That goes for almost every game in this franchise until GX. Like for F-Zero 99, I got into it because of that was fun. Then I got into the SNES one because I liked F-Zero 99. Then I found out, wait a minute, there's a comic with this thing? Wait a minute. These characters actually have stories behind them? What?
Yeah, there's a lot of cool, I think, implied storytelling. I don't think the game pulls it off as well as the manual does, but I love like just on the Deathwind level, you can see in the far distance the skeletal remains of a giant creature. It's very, Mike, is it called the Crate Dragon?
Great Dragon, yeah.
The Crate Dragon on Tatooine. There's nothing gets my juices going like a big bony skeleton. That sounded weird, but like it just gets you to imagine things. And the different racers have like this personality in the manual where one is like this bloodthirsty racer who's really just in it to see the crashes. And the other one's kind of a romantic sad boy who's trying to like do his father proud. So it definitely enriches the experience to think about the story that we're not getting in the game. I completely agree, Chico. I thought this game has aged incredibly well. So this was the birth of the modern racing game. Before F-Zero, racing games weren't fast, first of all. And second of all, they weren't from the perspective of down on the track and the cameras actually looks like it's moving around the corners. Now, granted, we know that it's not really moving. The Mode 7 graphics is just moving and rotating the background layer. But I think it still is a visual stunner.
This is the first Mode 7 game altogether when you think about it. I mean, like, this is the first. So, yeah, everything else kind of followed after this.
And 36 years ago. That doesn't seem like a long time, but when you consider how much technology advances in a short amount of time, 36 years ago is like the medieval times of video game development.
I,
You know,
I'm gonna ask, you said like this is a first for having this perspective.
effectively, where it's like sliding and cornering this fast without it being slow or jerky or whatever. It's the Street Fighter 2 of racing games. It's not the first one, but it's the first one to really get it right.
There was a game before this one, actually, that was on the SNES, the original NES, that this one is technically a follow-up of, I guess.
What is that?
It's like, I think Nintendo F1 Grand Prix or something like that.
Okay.
And like it never came out here in the States because like we're not that big onto that sort of thing here in the States. Formula One, and like it was gonna come out, but it didn't. And this is the follow-up to that game.
I mean F1, F-Zero. There you go. It's a prequel. It's a far in the future prequel.
Arcade games were doing this kind of a perspective already. Is also like getting into on the consoles is still significant, but like it doesn't feel like it's doing something particularly different to me than something like Pole Position.
Well, but pole position, though, you are going left and right on a track that is always presented as moving forward, right? And I feel like this was the first game where you could really get a look of the whole track, and it had that real experience of I feel like I'm on the track. That's my argument. Hey, look, leave a comment if you see what I'm talking about. But you're right, Mike. It's not the first. It just from what I've researched and from what I can tell, this really changed people's expectations for what a racing game would be going forward, as far as feel and look. Is there anything you liked about it, Mike? You seem kind of down on the original SNES F-Zero.
One thing certainly, I think the music in this is absolutely incredible.
Oh,
And I thought the music on F-Zero 99 is really good. So when I discovered it was just the original music, I was like, oh, they did like it wasn't like we've had time to figure out how we want to improve this or we're a little bit less constrained. Like, no, this is just the exact same stuff. And it really helps for something that gets otherwise repetitive.
Yeah. And it takes the frustration out of having to replay these tracks over and over again. It's like, okay, here we go, Mute City, but dang, it's a banger, Chico, you fan of the music?
Oh yeah, huge. Love the music so much. That's not just Stockholm Syndrome from racing on these tracks so much. It's genuinely good music. Big Blue, Mute City was one of my favorite tracks to play on in Smash Brothers Melee.
Yeah.
Just because of that dun, 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 yeah.
I feel like it's top 10 Nintendo songs easy, maybe top 5. In fact, it's so good that there was a music album that was released a year later featuring famous saxophonist Marc Russo and famous blues guitarist Robben Ford, excuse me. So like this, yeah, it attracted like genuine musicians who have like collabed with like Miles Davis. You know what I mean? Like the music industry sat up and paid attention to this game. I feel like, and I have Chico to thank for this because when we played F-Zero 99 together, he was teaching me some tricks about pulling off jumps. And, when you hit a jump, you can control whether your ship is pointing its nose to the sky or pointing its nose down to the track. Or if you just touch nothing, it stays level. And that little decision changes a lot. Because if you keep your nose up, right, you fly further, but now you are in less control of your mid-air steering. So you're not quite landing as easily. It's sort of like the experience of driving a real car by holding only the bottom of the steering wheel. It felt unnatural, but that's good though. If something has a benefit, it should add a little bit of difficulty. And when Chico taught me that in F-Zero 99, it opened up this whole rabbit hole of all these little tricks. And I learned that, oh, like the track itself is a surface you can collide into and slow down. And, and there's other things like, Chico taught me to tap the acceleration instead of hitting the brake to slow down just enough to get around the curves. Chico, you had said this is like Ninja Gaiden, where it's like tough, but technically fair if you can master it.
Uh-huh.
Like Mike, you played F-Zero 99 first and went to the SNES game. Did you find that the skills transferred over?
Oh, no, 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 no. Oh, because like it sort of transfers over, but it doesn't because the only usable car is the Fire Stingray. Every other car does not work.
Because it's not fast. They're not fast enough.
They're not fast enough. They also don't have the good enough turning. They're all somewhat broken in some ways, but the effort was there and the ideas were there. One thing that the Fire Stingray has to do is that one tech I learned specifically to the SNES version is you purposely let your car burn out. So that way it slightly jumps up in the track and then you're holding the R button. So that way the other racers will bump into you from behind and accelerate the Fire Stingray to its max acceleration faster.
Whoa.
Yeah, because otherwise the Stingray has the slowest acceleration.
Yeah, there's a mechanic you basically, and especially having beaten this on the toughest difficulties, you cannot win against the CPU without getting really creative. And so you have to use the warning lights when a racer is approaching you from behind to deliberately slide into their path so that they hockey puck hit you and now you shoot forward. And like Chico was saying, the Fire Stingray has the highest max speed. So if you can trick another racer into bumping into you at the start of the race, you're right, you'd take off and they'd have trouble catching you. That's cool. I didn't know that. The most ingenious mechanic is the boost because it erodes your health bar. And that is just pure and simple, pitch perfect risk reward mechanic. You want to go faster, it's going to make you more likely to explode. And so I think that just created so many sweaty palm moments of like, there's a finish line. I got one turn left. Can I hit the boost without exploding? And, going back to episode one Racer, that's the most exciting moment of a futuristic space race is when those hovercrafts are exploding into each other. So I really grew to appreciate this game. Is there anything else you want to say in defense of it before we go to the Joy-Cons of F-Zero on the SNES?
That's not this SNES game. I was wondering if you were going to call that out, but the SNES game doesn't take away your health. That wasn't until the next game, F-Zero X. You get a new boost every time you pass the finish line, and it's like Monopoly rules.
Wait, are you saying that I'm confusing that with F-Zero 99?
Yeah.
Yep.
You have to go the full first lap with no boost, and then you start picking up boosts, and but you can only get up to 3 at once. So like before you get to that last lap, you have to use one.
Right.
Yep.
That is hilarious that my brain I played this game for 7 hours. And in my head, I would always be sacrificing health if I hit the boost. That is so funny. I made it so much more difficult on myself without meaning to.
That's probably because you're dying all the time and still taking damage from everything else.
In the game or in real life?
In this game. I don't want to know about your life. But I know in this game, if it's not from those jerks in the front.
Well, that's so funny. So take everything I said. Maybe I'll have Mike move this to the F-Zero 99 section to save face. Okay, so Mike, you didn't love this as much as F-Zero 99. What are the Joy-Cons?
For me, I think a big part of this is what happens when you have something like this that has a fair number of levels, but you can only access them in a certain order. And if you fail, you have to start back over.
Yeah.
And so in this case, with the sequences of 5 races, having situations where it's like, okay, I can get through the first 4, and the 5th one is a track that involves a lot of right angles, a lot of getting stuck bouncing between walls for a bit. It just kind of hit the spot where I was having to redo a lot to get back to the one bit that was proving difficult, since you only have a few lives, and once they're gone, you're starting up the whole thing back over again.
Yeah. It's brutal. It's challenging in a way that a lot of times didn't feel like a fun challenge. It was like, oh, this is like a mean-spirited challenge. I also feel like this is from the era where like you wanted to get a lot of playtime out of your cartridges, so challenge was sort of seen as an added value. I don't know.
To me, that's where with the racing game, I view the other spot that comes in, which it is satisfying, is when you start to get like, I have lowered my records again. Like, you have racing games very naturally have a thing that you can get the replay of. I can tell I'm getting faster at this. How much faster can I get this kind of thing? And for me in a racing game, I find something then like that more motivating than getting through levels where it's becoming sort of frustrating, because my goal there is to try to check out that later thing that I'm not getting to see.
There is a practice mode in the game specifically for that, but you have to at first beat the Grand Prix on standard difficulty, I believe, to actually unlock those races for the practice mode.
Yeah, which is kind of backwards. Like, you can practice something once you've already gotten good at it. It's like, that's weird. I think the biggest mark against the F-Zero SNES game is that it's only single player. And that's not really fair to criticize, because like Chico was saying, this was the first Mode 7 graphics racing game. Mario Kart would come out about 2 years later, and it had 2-player split screen. But I think at the sacrifice of a lot of speed. Like, I think this game looks and plays better and faster than Mario Kart. Would you all agree? On the SNES, I mean, of course.
Yeah, I would agree like that, because and not only that, in order to facilitate that 2-player split screen, Mario Kart has to split the main screen in half to have a map on the bottom. So there must always be a screen on the bottom. Like, that's how much energy it sucks.
Right. How much resources it's taking up, 100%. And I also just feel like there's some kind of missed opportunity here. We talked already about how the characters, except for Chico is right. I fired up my Switch 2 and checked it out. You can see Captain Falcon's silhouette leaning back and forth in the cockpit. Super cute detail. So I stand corrected. Captain Falcon is there. You just can't see him because it's through his cockpit glass, or you can't see him in detail, I should say. But like the tracks, Mike, did you read the descriptions of the tracks and thought they were kind of cooler than the actual tracks in the game?
I'm gonna say no. I read through it, but I wasn't doing a comparison to in game.
Well, so you read the instruction booklet, and silence is described as a planet with no sound. Sound does not travel on the planet Silence. Terrifying concept. You play it in the game, all the same music, all the same sound effects. It's like, how hard would it have, maybe, look, I don't know game development. Maybe it would have been hard to actually mute just that level, but that would have been really memorable if there was one track in this game where there was no sound.
Like, the music isn't diegetic. It's not playing on the planet. Like,
We don't know that.
and so from that initial point of clearly you're hearing stuff that isn't out there, that could just be what they're hearing in the cockpit. For all we know, then the other sound stuff is all the system provides that sound as feedback, kind of the same way that all of the sound in Star Wars, based off of books that I think Disney has thrown out, like when you're hearing the sound of ships going by, that is in fact an in-universe explained thing, that is like the tracking computer plays sound because that helps people process the information better without it actually being sound in space.
That is a really cool idea. I love that. Look at that.
Yeah, I don't think George Lucas likes it, but an explanation was developed to deal with that criticism. So I can see that being here. Like, yeah, no, there's no sound out there, but this is so that when you're in here, you have an idea what's going on and can harness senses still.
Well, and I guess you could even go deeper than that, because this game, the premise of this game is that it's a sport. So in theory, we might be watching footage that other people are watching at home. You know what I mean? So maybe the sound effects are being added. I don't know. But silence, I thought it could have used more silence. White
My
Land.
goodness.
White Land is described as the most romantic planet in the universe. There's barely any sexual tension to be found. And then Port Town, right? It says it has tight chicanes. It has chicanes, but I think it could have been a little tighter. So, am I right, guys? The chicanes on Port Town a little lackluster.
I don't get why it's called Port Town, but it also has turns to the right.
It-
It's Starboard Town's another next time over. Gotta go over there.
My goodness, all this story detail in this manual. Are you ever going to mention Takaya Imamura at any point in the podcast? Because this is all his work.
I don't even know who you're talking about. Please enlighten us.
Oh my goodness. Takaya Imamura is the man who drew that concept art you showed us earlier of the four racers in black and white. Takaya Imamura is he was an artist at Nintendo who basically was the lore guy of Nintendo. All of his games feature the most dense lore behind them. His stuff is Star Fox. He worked on the story of Star Fox, hence why some of those games can get really bonkers in the lore department. And that, well, we'll be looking at it later, but eventually you'll see crossovers between F-Zero and Star Fox at some point.
Yeah.
He's also, I mean, a talented artist, you see. He designed the moon in Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask. Yes, that, yes,
For
that,
those, Mike, I'll have to get the clip of just that part. I made the Majora's Mask moon face.
yes, he did so much. His entire shtick is doing storytelling, and he recently opened his own indie studio this year just to basically make a game based off a manga he made at this time period. The
Nice.
guy is still active after all these years.
Yeah, he must be like 90 by now or something, right?
I think he's around that range, maybe his 70s, 80s.
Wow.
He's
Super
Takaya
cool.
Imamura. This story, the dense story of F-Zero is all on him. And you best believe that he wrote the descriptions of this manual. He wrote the backstories to all these pilots.
I'm so excited to get to the later games because I know it's just going to add more characters.
And now knowing that they've done crossovers means that there's all the more hope for the crossover that I felt was obvious here.
Which
Is
was?
with Scooby-Doo, because Scooby-Doo and the Blue Falcon.
Oh God, that's a deep cut.
All right. Well, you know what? Mike is blending a little bit of his real life into this discussion. So, anything else to complain about F-Zero SNES before we move on to part 2 of our episode?
I think
Yeah.
so.
All right. Well, before we get into F-Zero 99, I wanted to play a quick mini game minute. We're calling this one Science Faction. It's a very quick and simple concept. I will list a series of things from the F-Zero science fiction racing series. It'll be elements of both F-Zero and our next game, F-Zero 99. And all you guys need to do is tell me which one exists in real life. Okay? So we will just have Chico go first, I guess, with the first guess because he's our guest. And then after that, whoever is in the lead will get the first guess. Question number 1. Which of the following do you think is a real-life person currently living in Southern California? Captain Falcon, Dr. Stewart, or Samurai Goro? So, Chico, if you had to guess, of those 3 names, which one is a person really living in Southern California today?
I guess Dr. Stewart. That sounds like the most reasonable one.
Mike, agree? He's getting in his head.
It feels like it should, but I'm going to guess Captain Falcon because this feels like that's one that could be found.
Yeah, like a serviceman or something, or a veteran.
Yeah, kind of like there was an Optimus Prime in the U.S. military.
Well, say hello to Cedar Sinai neurosurgeon Kushner H. Stewart. So the first correct answer goes to Chico. Okay, question number 2. Which of the following can you find on Google Maps? Mute City, Port Town, Red Canyon, or Whiteland? So Chico, as you are now in the lead, you will get the first guess. Which of those 4 track names from F-Zero 99 is findable on Google Maps?
Red Canyon, I guess. I mean, all of these can work.
They all could work. That's why it's interesting. Okay, Mike, agree?
I'm going. I think Red Canyon also feel there's a lot of generic canyons.
It's not just a generic canyon. It's one in Utah. Crystal, if you're listening, I'm pretty sure we camped there. She got very mad at me for agreeing to going camping despite not knowing how to pitch a tent or start a fire or in any way support my own survival. So
My
apologies for
goodness.
that.
Did
Yeah.
you not do the Boy Scouts?
I did do the Boy Scouts. I was just not a good Boy Scout.
You did Cub Scouts.
Okay. Mike, you're exposing me here on the show. I always tell people I did Boy Scouts, but he's true. I never went beyond Weeblos, I think.
Oh dear, this shatters all my faith in you.
We just lost our biggest listener. Oh well. We had a good run. So Chico stays in the lead 2-1. Question number 3. Which of the following is actually a type of real life vehicle? The wild goose, fire stingray, or golden fox? Chico, you get the first guess?
I'm gonna go with the wild goose.
Wild goose. Okay. Mike, agree or disagree?
I will go Golden Fox.
Chico pulls ahead. The wild goose is an unmanned aircraft built by Barnes Wallace to test the effects of having wings situated on a plane backwards.
I'm really just guessing.
All
I did not tip him off.
right, Mike, this one's yours, okay? Ready, baby? Okay, my mind is your mind. This one's for you. Which of the following pieces of technology already exists? Anti-gravity guide beams, magnetic field block coatings, or dash zones? Now, Chico, you are having commanding lead, so you have to guess first. Which one of these is a piece of technology that already exists?
Magnetic field block coat?
Okay. Mike, agree or disagree?
So is this by term or as in the concept exists?
Concept. Like, which one of these things could actually work as described here?
Okay. Okay. So we have the anti-gravity guide beam. This guardrail is installed to prevent machines from leaving the course and dropping over the edge. So that is just that, like, you're hitting it and it's repelling.
Using anti-gravity.
Okay. Magnetic field block coat.
I love he's getting so into this. He's an astrophysicist, aren't you? Is that the term?
Yeah.
Okay.
It is important to keep control of your machine when passing through this area, as this coating blocks your
Blocks the magnetic grip.
blocks the magnetic grip.
So the magnetic field is blocked.
Okay. And then the last one, because like the dash zone just says thrust forward with an explosion of acceleration, but doesn't explain what we're talking about.
Well, we know it's magnets, right? Because if you read the instructions, this is all magnets.
Okay, so if this is effectively this is all magnets, then I'm going to go with the dash zone because roller coasters use magnetic acceleration.
That's my boy. That's right, Mike. Yes. So, the reason that Chico, no shade. I thought yours was the correct answer until I really researched it. But Mike, back me up on this. Magnetic fields can't truly be blocked, only redirected.
Yeah, but I think even with that kind of stuff, you can create things where it doesn't pass through. So if they're trying to interact, like there are ways that can kind of make sense. But yeah, the last one is basically a lot of modern roller coasters.
Yeah, and super trains.
Yeah.
Okay, so last question. So either Chico will maintain the lead or it will be a tie. It is a question involving the technology, the machines, and the characters. In military slang, what do you call a soldier who refuses to prioritize the needs of the squad? Are they called landmines, blue falcons, or picos?
Landmines.
Okay, Chico guesses landmine. Mike?
Refuses to prioritize the needs of the squadron.
Correct. You get the Jeopardy music playing in here.
I see a way to explain it being a landmine, so I'm going to go with that as well.
All right. Well, you're both wrong, which means Chico maintains the lead. It's apparently Blue Falcon
What?
because of its phonetic similarity to the phrase buddy effer.
Huh.
Yeah. So anyway, good match, you guys. Good match with Science Faction. That was fun. So let's get into, with no further ado, our second and final game of this episode, F09 D9, released for Nintendo Switch Online in 2023. As described on NintenDO'Nt.com. Ready? Go! Lightning fast F-Zero racing with a 99-player twist. Line up with 98 other F-Zero machines and race to the finish in this thrilling take on the original Super NES game. Keep an eye on your power meter as you boost and bash because speed is just as important as survival. Defend yourself with a spin attack and collect super sparks to breeze past the competition on the elevated Skyway. The F-Zero 99 game is available only to active Nintendo Switch Online members. I probably didn't need to read that last part. But anyway, this was directed and developed and published by Nintendo and released as a free-to-play title for anyone subscribed to Nintendo Switch Online, in the same vein as Tetris 99 or the ill-fated Mario 35. And that's funny to say now, because this is the same Nintendo that is currently charging us $10 for the Switch 2 tech demo. And then they create this free-to-play battle royale that's been supported for years now at no additional charge. Chico, did you buy the sit and spin simulator? I mean, sorry, the welcome tour?
No,
Yeah, me neither.
no interest in doing that.
I would probably cave if it goes on sale for less than $5. Just because I think the tech demo kind of things are fun. But yeah, it's just like Nintendo greed has kind of become a trending topic, and so it's weird to talk about this game, which is kind of the antithesis, I think. So according to a 2003 press conference, ever since the days of the GameCube, the F-Zero devs have lamented not really knowing how to push the series into new directions. This, combined with lackluster sales of the F-Zero series, especially compared to Mario Kart, meant that the series lay dormant for nearly 20 years without a single new entry. And then on September 14th, 2023, this free-to-play battle royale was announced and released all in the same day. I can't imagine the sense of whiplash that F-Zero fans must have felt. Chico, were you excited to play it on day one?
Oh, not really. Like, again, I never really knew F-Zero was a thing. And so, like, when I saw it, I was kind of like, well, actually, it seemed like the reaction at the time of the direct when it aired was bafflement, a lot of bafflement.
Yeah.
And
It's like,
and I was kind of there with it.
yeah, 100%. But Mike, you were interested in this one from Jump.
Yeah, because I think it was an interesting angle on a racing game of theoretically 98 other people.
And I think that's a fun concept. Like the concept of a track being that crowded. Like we've seen in movies and animations, these huge races where it's like, an impossibly big scale. And then now, thanks to, modern internet technology, we can, participate in things like this. Do we want to do Nintendo beat it or not? Like what would you guys consider, or do you think it's possible to beat F-Zero 99?
You kind of can.
I don't think you can, really.
I mean, we said you beat the baseball game when you won a match. So wouldn't placing first be beating F-Zero 99?
I don't think so, because I think that's not the end. That's not the end of it, in a sense.
Okay. Okay.
I would say that the end of it would be getting every single achievement and every single decal, every single achievement, and like basically everything that the game can get squeezed out of.
Okay, you know what? I'm gonna make a power move right now. Chico, have you ever placed first in an F-Zero 99 race?
Never.
Oh, I thought you would have. You were so
Oh,
good.
wait a minute.
Not team battle. Not team
I
battle.
did on one classic style race, a classic Grand Prix. I did win first place that one time.
You Nintendo.
Nintendo. Family computer.
And I also only beat the classic mode. So I Nintendo as well.
Nintendo. Family computer.
Mike, have you ever won a race?
Against 99 other people?
Or the classic mode, which has only 19 other racers?
Why would I be playing that when I'm playing F-Zero 99 with 98 other people?
Those who don't know what we're talking about, this game has a bunch of different modes. There's Grand Prix, where it's multiple races. There's the traditional mode, which is just one race. Can you get to the front of the 100, long pack? But there's also classic mode, where it cuts the racers down to 20, and your modern moves are gone. So you can't spin attack. You can't use some of the extra bonus features. I thought it was kind of neat, but Mike, you never touched classic mode.
No, I mean, what you've just said is basically, in F-Zero 99, have you ever beaten the original F-Zero?
Okay, so you need those new features.
I would say it's a little more interesting the original F-Zero because the physics are so different between the two. Like when you bump in F-Zero on the SNES, you're bumping in left and right like a ping pong on in F-Zero 99. You can do that too, but not as easily. Not as easily. And you can make turns a little easier.
I think that this game, Mike had kind of implied that this is everything F-Zero on the SNES does, but it's better. And I think it feels better. And like you said, like, yeah, the physics are a bit more responsive. It still looks like the SNES game, but the longer you look at it, it's like, oh, everything's much crisper. Everything, is much easier to kind of make out visually. They didn't just take the game from 1990, what was it, 1991, and just add 98 other players to it, but it feels like that. And that like almost, I don't know if you guys have this reaction, but this game feels really graphically impressive because my brain goes, "Oh, this is a 16-bit game, but look at all those racers." It's kind of jaw-dropping.
I also just appreciate that you can see the wind, which, oh my God, makes a big difference.
Oh
Yes.
yeah.
Like when
Yeah.
I was playing it on SNES with Deathwind, where the wind matters, but you can't see it, I was having to like repeat to myself which way the wind was going
Yep.
and switching it as I'd reach turns. And on F-Zero 99, I can just see it. And the crazy part about that is it doesn't look like they did anything, like it fits stylistically so much that you only realize it's a thing they added for F-Zero 99 if you play the original. You don't look at it and go, oh, well, that's a thing they must have added for the new version.
Yeah.
So like I can tell you this, that's not the only thing that's been improved. For starters, on the SNES, the draw distance of the tracks is incredibly low because of the technology that they're using. You can hardly see in front of you. So when those turns are coming, you can't like they're just like right there in front of you. But when you go to F-Zero 99, you can see all the way back. And like when you go into classic mode, the game F-Zero 99 actually decreases the draw distance back to SNES levels. And I mean, also the screen is widescreen now. Like they redrew all the sprites. The tracks are actually 3D objects, which early data mining showed. So like instead of faking 3D, this is actual real 3D tracks.
And you can kind of feel that when you turn and the camera will actually loop around in a way that feels modern. Mike was mentioning the wind from Deathwind. And yeah, it's really unnerving and annoying to have no visual representation of that in the SNES version, especially since you don't get the sense that it was that complicated of a thing to add just an extra layer of lines moving across the screen to show wind.
I mean, a whole extra layer of stuff going on.
Oh, yeah. In 1991.
Yeah, like it really actually is. It's just it's like I can understand that, but it visually doesn't look like it's complex.
Right.
Yeah, for like not even just the first racing game. Think about it. It was a launch game for the Super Nintendo. Those cartridges are expensive.
100%. 100%. Yeah. F-Zero 99 also adds a lot of cool little flourishes. On the sand ocean level, the sandstorm can intensify and kind of hinder your vision, and it kind of makes everything a little harder to see. It's a really exciting moment. Every race begins on this really cool added runway section where it's all 99 racers all lined up kind of neck and neck, shoulder to shoulder, kind of raring at the gates to start. And this really wide runway, it's kind of shaped like a big cone where at the beginning it's super, super wide and then it kind of filters to a point, and then that cone kind of spews you out onto the track. And it's this really great way of feeling like you're all starting from the same place. It feels fair, but and then also I always get really hyped every time I jump from the runway to the track proper, and that music, that dun 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 kicks in. Oh my God, that's F-Zero 99. Let's go. Chico, can you talk to us about the Skyway mechanic? I think that's the big innovation for this one.
Oh yeah. Basically, every time you bump into the other racers, collide into them, or bump into certain bumpers, they'll drop these little tiny golden orbs. And when you collect enough of them, the game will it'll activate a special meter for you that lets you soar above the track. And the strategy of this is that, like, on some parts of the track, it will let you fly over or like cut through parts of the track onto the danger zone. But at the same time, the game will not drop you onto the danger zone when you run out of them. So you can theoretically, well, not theoretically, you can extend your meter even after you've run out at that time. So
Was
there's
the
a
danger
intense strategy. Danger zone, the out of bounds stuff, the crash out area.
And this is the highway over it.
Uh-huh.
I was gonna say, is it too late to change the title of the episode of Highway to the Danger Zone?
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
Yes.
It's also super useful, both in the ability of it gives you a different way to play the game. That if you're focusing a bit more on getting up to that skyway, you can be further back and jump ahead. And because it's to get power up for that, you're getting stuff that's being dropped by other racers that does preferentially help you the further back you are. And there's some of the levels I really like this because there's certain levels that have turns that I hate. And so there are certain levels that I just go into it with a lean heavy into getting up to that and just skipping the part of the race I don't want to deal with. Because there's one of them where like the track splits and it's like two halves of a circle, then it rejoins on the other side. And I hate that thing. And so instead of having to deal with that turn, I try to have this and then I just go straight at where the split is and the last possible moment, jump up.
It's a genius mechanic to let you decide which part of the track do you want to skip. Because every racing game has that one part of the track. Ah, dang it, I hate this turn. Not today, turn. It's like, I would never do this. But if you've ever gone into a carpool lane while driving alone, that little thrill. Not that I would know, allegedly. But yeah, just the special little on-ramp. I just such a genius mechanic. And Mike, I got a call on you for the lucky bumper system. This is the post-death mechanic. Because this is very Mario Kart 64 battle coded, right, Mike?
It needs to be more destructive to feel like that, but it definitely keeps you engaged.
Can you explain to our listeners what the lucky bumper system is?
So basically, one of the other things this does is to sort of have additional obstacles that are not current racers, which are other cars in the track. And one of the ways it does that is if you do something like, say, misgauge the length of a jump and go off of it too slow and die in the first 4 seconds of the race, hypothetically.
Yeah.
You then come back as this larger, slow-moving vehicle to try to hit other vehicles as the racers are trying to get around you. And I think especially it seems to leverage this a bit on the team levels where you have groups of racers paired together, and the ones that are out early will come back, and you can try to mess with the other team pretty solidly. And if once most of the pack has passed you, it'll basically lift you up and move you back up to the front of the pack again. So you kind of get 2 or 3 times through the pack to try to wreck the other team.
But even if you're not playing team mode, it's just so satisfying. Like, if you can't win a race, you can at least ruin someone else's day. And that's so satisfying. And then Chico taught me that,
yeah. There's nothing more fun when the player number 1 is on fire and you're the lucky bumper and you just like happen to ram right into them and while they're on fire and just like cost them the race.
It's so good. And you're getting little points towards basically the online, microcurrency. And that's the other thing that I think needs to be said about this game is that it would have been so easy to have microtransactions and have some kind of in-game currency and there are in-game currencies, but it's all for unlocks and participating in online events, and the game doesn't even give the option of accepting more of or any of your money. It's like just truly free to play. And that is so rare in modern gaming. So Nintendo, I know we bag on you a lot, but we love you and do more things like this because it's really, really cool. And bring back Mario 35 for Mario's 40th anniversary. Make Mario 40 and freaking leave it this time. Mike didn't get to try it.
If I could give a little bit of something.
Yeah.
I have never been the kind of person to praise just the multi-million-dollar company because I like to praise the people behind them.
Love that.
And in this case, the team behind this project is Nintendo Software Technologies, NST for short. They are the most beaten down Nintendo studio who suffered humiliation during the Wii era after. Do you guys remember Project Hammer?
No.
It was a Wii game that was like in development for years. People thought it was going to be a big highlight thing, but like it kept having problems behind the scenes, and Nintendo Japan basically like halted the project and like basically put the team to menial tasks. And Nintendo Software Technologies was one of the most prolific early GameCube, Game Boy Advance era studios of Nintendo. They designed all the Mario and the Mario versus Donkey Kong games on the Game Boy. They designed Rave Race. They designed a lot of N64, Ridge Racer 64 specifically. They had a story history that ended with Project Hammer, and this was their big comeback project back in 2023. And this game was going to get canceled eventually at some point until, like, apparently they saved it with their effort.
I mean, thank God they did. Like, and I just love, look, if I can gush for a second, I love what you said about like, let's not praise the multi-billion-dollar company. Let's praise the people who made us love it. That's gonna be my philosophy going forward in these tumultuous times. Chico for office. That's what I'm saying.
To some extent, I still at least give Nintendo as a larger company credit for continuing to support that team and not cutting them.
It's true.
There is the element of, as much as they have a good idea, if Nintendo decided it wasn't worth the investment, it wouldn't matter to some extent because it'd be gone.
Yeah.
It's like Nintendo's credit goes to investing in people that have a good idea and are doing something good and not dropping it because they're not seeing a direct monetary benefit out of this. But it certainly has the indirect thing of having a reason to keep people playing. And like on this, one of the cool things, I like that it has a good way that is there's stuff that you can unlock with a quasi gambling system.
The lucky ranks.
The lucky ranks, where you basically, after you've done 5 or 6 races, and it tracks what your place was on each of those, as well as with which vehicle, and then it flips over a bunch of cards. And if you match numbers, or if you happen to have a vehicle, if it happens to pull up a vehicle and it's one that you finished one of your races with, you basically win another ticket towards, I think it's basically all display items.
And there's so many fun cosmetic, there's all these different paint jobs and emotes and player cards, and you can customize the color of your boost. And then, you're talking about, like, yeah, Nintendo has like a kind like philosophy sometimes. And like there's the auto steering mechanic, for people who aren't most confident with F-Zero, you can turn off the ability to crash out over the side. And it hinders your ability to make turns super tightly. So you can't really easily win with it. But it's like, let's remove frustration if people want to do that. It's just, there's so much here. F-Zero 99 is really solid.
I don't suppose you fellas ever noticed that I was driving a particularly strange-looking 4 strange-looking cars, right?
The colors were definitely noteworthy. Tell us about them.
It's not just that you download decals for your car, but you can actually unlock 4 new vehicles entirely as of one of their most recent updates. Those 4 vehicles are specific. I mean, in the game themselves, they just look like they're just called costumes, but they still are 4 different vehicles from the sequel to the original F-Zero BS Grand Prix. They are shucks. Oh, I forget their names. Blue Storm, the Fire, the one that looks like a shoe. Like basically the replacements of the 4 different machines from the Super Nintendo Satellaview sequel.
Yeah, this I was gonna put it in my trivia, but I didn't know it had an F-Zero 99 collection. Yeah, there's the Blue Thunder, Luna Bomber, Green Amazon, spelled with an E, and Fire Scorpion.
How else would you spell green?
Ah, that was good, Mike. I like that.
Very good one.
But I didn't know they added these to F-Zero 99. That's dope. So you've unlocked all. How do you unlock them?
You have to beat the Ace League. You have to complete the Ace League, not be first place. You have to actually complete it, which is harder than it sounds like to do that. You have to do it with their respective vehicles.
Yeah, I noticed your vehicles look different, but I forgot to ask why.
It is not easy beating the Ace League, but those are my crowning achievements of F-Zero 99. But
Nice.
now for a while, you could only play those vehicles, but now they've unlocked colors for those vehicles too. But like, it takes a lot of effort to get them.
That's dope.
One thing I'd also say I appreciate is that because it always has basically go do a standard race.
Mm.
But I think it does a fairly good job of rotating through other options as well. If it'll be okay, now it's team battle, now it's some sort of league race kind of thing. And that kind of allows them to get a lot of people doing a special thing at once.
Yeah.
So I think when I was streaming, I held off ending my stream long enough to have one of the, at this time we're going to have a larger challenge. And I think up until that point, I was probably getting maybe order of 15 or 20 other people in their tops. And we did that, and there was like 85 that were players, because you can kind of tell that as people are joining, they're coming in, and then at the very end, it'll just backfill the rest of the field. And so it got up to a lot of people before that happened. Like, oh, there's a lot more people on for this than I was expecting.
Yeah, the constant rotation of special events.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
I like that.
I do have one more thing. This is just one of the things that they did to improve the game. In the original SNES game, it's not only just a one flat track. The background underneath the track itself is also flat, part of the same. But in F-Zero 99, they're two separate layers. So when you're turning, the background is not turning at the same speed as you are. So it creates a less distorting effect. So it like actually feels much more 3D.
Yeah, it's less disorienting for sure.
And I guess like also one last thing is that they added tracks, not just the vehicles, but some of the tracks from the SNES Satellaview game. So those I appreciate. Hey, and I'm still waiting on the rest of them to come.
And for those who haven't listened to our past episodes, Satellaview, and by the way, listen to our past episodes, it's good stuff. Satellaview was this downloadable peripheral in Japan only, where you could download, like DLC or like, kind of special download only titles for the Super Nintendo. Mike, what were you going to say?
Remind me, I was going to ask, since we've already kind of covered like how the boosts worked, changed from the first game to later stuff.
Yeah, sorry.
Because this adds in, or at least between the original game and this, there's that in this you have the spin attacks, which allows you to sort of spin, sort of you won't take damage, but you can certainly hit other people. But this also has, and I don't know if it came into the series before this point, that also if you kill another racer, I guess KO, but I mean that explodes. They're not walking away.
You knocked them out of their lives.
Yeah. Like you can do that and it will note that you did that, but also that will give you a boost that will continue for the rest of that level. And if it's part of a series, it will continue the whole way, which I think is like it maxes it increases like your max speed or something. I forget quite what, but it's like, so if you are frequently knocking out other racers, your max capabilities are increasing over the course of like that league.
I believe it refills your entire boost / health meter.
Yep.
I think it also does that.
A great gameplay mechanic. I'm glad you mentioned it because like you're incentivizing aggression. And that ties into the lore that Chico mentioned of the SNES game of like, if you read the instruction manual, it's like people thought that it was inhumane, but as time went on, they looked forward to the blood sport. And I'm like, ooh, yeah. I love the F-Zero universe feels very clean, but there's like a violence to it that is kind of an undercurrent.
That's really what I've always said is missing in online games is the incentivization of violence against others.
In online games. We're getting plenty of that in real life. We don't need more of that in real life. So if I can complain, because we're clearly gushing about this Battle Royale kind of pseudo remake, I was annoyed because we did a Discord day. Chico dominated us, handily beating myself, Mike, and a friend of the show, Sarah and Kyle. They were on our Mario Party episode. So Chico just snatched up that $10 gift card all to himself. What'd you spend it on? Did you spend it yet?
I haven't spent it yet and still just kind of eyeing stuff.
Okay, well, $10 can get you a long way on some of those eShop sales. But in order to play together, we had to use private lobby codes, which is fine. Like, I made it more difficult than I should have by constantly changing the code, much to Mike's chagrin. At one point, he's like, "Why are you changing the number every time?" But it was irritating that you had to get the correct 4-digit code to match with your friends, and you had to be selecting the exact same game mode. And it's like, why not just have like a party system?
I
Like,
agree.
right? And then when you have a shared lobby, there's an automatic 60-second countdown before the race has started. So even if Sarah hasn't joined the lobby yet, that race is going to start without her. Why not let me wait or at least give me a button to delay the start? It's a private lobby. If you do Grand Prix in your private lobby and someone crashes out at the very beginning, they're out for the next 3 or 5 races. Why not let them come back in if I want to enable that? It's a private lobby. Like, let me play the game I want to play, Nintendo. And they're never, well, often they're bad at that.
I don't hold the Grand Prix part on them because I think that doesn't.
It's kind of the point.
Yeah. Like if you don't want to do that, you don't play a Grand Prix. But yeah, the way that you have to join a new lobby every race.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. That is very annoying. Like, it's one thing to not have to do a Grand Prix, but like the fact that we had to constantly rejoin, re-input the numbers, re-input the mode.
Well, the numbers was my fault.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we still had to be in that front menu all the time. It would have been nice if we just went to like a private lobby menu and we selected the modes from there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it reminds me of the distinction, and there is also, I guess it doesn't matter here because the lobby ends as soon as the race does, but it kind of reminds me of the distinction versus something like Fall Guys, where it is like I have a gripe with that you can't join if they're in game, so you have to wait until it's the gap between games. But at
Yeah.
least that just carries it over the whole thing. Like, okay, we go back to the lobby kind of stuff. Whereas this doesn't have that stage. It just goes, well, race is over, lobby's gone. You need a new lobby every single race.
And that was my big hope for Switch 2, Chico. I mean, I know we're enjoying our Switch 2s, but I kind of had really hoped that they would have figured out and modernized online gaming and had like a party system via Xbox or something. But que sera, it's not to be. My last Joy-Con, I don't know if I'm allowed to do this, but I'm going to do it, Mike. Doug Bino. Doug Bino, if you're out there listening, take a look at this screenshot, guys. I was killed. You can see me. You can see for those looking at YouTube, I am being hit by Doug Bino. And I'm curious if you guys think, did this count as finishing the race? I'm exploding right on the checkered line.
I mean, it shouldn't.
What? My wreckage would count.
It seems like a skill issue there.
Oh, Chico, brutal. Well, Doug Bino, I wasn't gonna win, but that was just I've never been taken out of a race so brutally at such a last second. So you know what? My hat's off to you, actually. Anything else to complain about F-Zero 99 before we render our verdicts for today?
Yeah, no, that there is no offline single player mode, and I'm hoping that becomes something in the future.
You mean outside of the practice? You mean you want to just race against all bots?
Well, yeah, I mean something like what Tetris 99 has. That's a game that's still online, yes, but you still have an offline version like in physical form.
Ah, right. So you can play it on a road trip or something.
And it would be a really nice, it would be a nice chance to have a tiny story mode at least. You can see that they took for the emotes, they took illustrations from the comic, right?
Yeah.
It would be nice to have a story mode of just even these talking heads arguing with each other.
100%. And that's what I was hoping from the SNES version too. It's like you said, you got this. Who was the lore expert who created all this backstory? You said the name was what again?
Takaya Imamura.
You have all that work for it just to be underutilized in game. But I think, we'll get to it in later seasons, but I believe that later F-Zero games leaned more heavily into that. So I'm excited to get there. Well, guys, we've covered all of the Joy Pros, the Joy Cons, and every bit in between. So it's time to declare each game from today's episode as a NintenDO or a NintenDON'T. So let's start off with F-Zero on the SNES. Chico, what say ye?
I think it's just a solid Nintendo, mainly for the history. It's a playable game. It has a much better remake already out there, and I'm calling it what it is. F-Zero 99 is a remake of the original.
But you still think it's a Nintendo, if
Yes.
nothing else than historical appreciation.
At least historical appreciation. If you're hardcore enough, the game is still playable. It's fun. There's a satisfaction to it. It's not terrible.
Mike, I think you disagree though, right?
Yeah, I think this may be the first time that I have done this for this reason, but I find it hard to find a reason for myself to play F-Zero with F-Zero 99 also on there.
Right.
I think it just supersedes it in such a specific way that I'd go NintenDO'N't on this because F-Zero 99's there.
Yeah. I was 100% in your boat. It's kind of on our last episode, Picross versus Super Picross, and I was like, well, technically everything I like is present in the sequel, and the sequel has more. So why would I? And I think Chico's right. I think historical perspective of just the first Mode 7 game, because Mode 7 changed gaming as we know it. This is a launch title for the Super Nintendo. Like Chico said, it's still playable. It's still fun. You guys were knocking like, how much you hockey puck and bounce around the tracks, but some of the most exciting moments in this game are when you're bouncing off the barriers and still managing to course correct and get that second place or that first place. I think that you start with F-Zero on the SNES. I think it's a Nintendo. You might not play it for very long, but it's the same price subscription. If you have access to F-Zero 99, you automatically, with no extra investment, have access to the original F-Zero. So give it a try. Do a lap or two, and then switch over to F-Zero 99 because it's freaking incredible. It's a Super Nintendo. F-Zero 99 was a game that I was slow to like and have fallen completely in love with it. I have not gotten that first place yet, but I'm gonna do it. I've gotten so close so many times, and there's always a Doug Bino that comes out of nowhere.
There's a very good practice mode there, so that way you can avoid all the Doug Binos you want.
That's not my style. I don't take precautions. I don't invest my time wisely. Sloppy for that. But yeah, F-Zero 99, Super Nintendo. It's fantastic. Chico, would you agree?
I'm actually going to go a little further. I think that even though we're on the console previous to this one, I gotta say it. This is a Nintendo Ultra 64. Guitar riff solo from F-Zero GX.
I don't know, Mike, if we're going to have to put the sound effect in for that one. I think he did it.
Yeah.
So, Mike, on the same boat?
I think I'm on Super Nintendo for this because
Yeah.
it has like even if there was different levels, I would view that as F-Zero bringing something or still having something different. But like I was surprised to just be like, oh wait, no, I recognize these level layouts, and levels are a key part of a racing game, and they appear, at least of the ones I saw, they're all in F-Zero 99 the same way. So it has everything that I want.
It's such a generous game. It's hard not to recommend. Well, with that, we're going to call it game over for today. The final scores for F-Zero on the SNES, a narrow Nintendo, and F-Zero 99, a glowing recommendation. Chico, thank you so much for hitting the tracks with us today and for being one of the biggest supporters of the Old SwitchAroo. I cannot overstate how much it means to us. Before you get on out of here, why don't you tell our listeners where they can find Wet Frontier and anything else you're working on?
Yeah, show me your moves. You can find Wet Frontier over at wetfrontier.com. That's one word, scrunched up together. And I'll see you on the track. You'll find my work there. Zooming out.
Awesome. Love it, love it, love it. It all sounds NE excellent. Everyone join us next time when we'll be super fighting robots on the Sega Genesis with Mega Man: The Wily Wars. That covers Mega Man's 1, 2, and 3 Genesis remakes. It's gonna be awesome. Also, don't forget to visit www.theoldswitcheroo.com. There you can find links to our Spotify, YouTube, Instagram, and all the social medias you can shake a joystick at. You can even leave an old-timey voicemail, meaning we would literally love to hear from you, or even better, join the fun on our Discord server where you can play games, talk games, and even make a friend or two. Big thanks to Crystal Fields for our incredible intro song, and thank you, dear listener, for liking, commenting, subscribing, reviewing, and playing along with us every step of the way. This has been the Old Switcheroo, where we've been talking gaming retro with Mike and Jaymo.
I've been Mike.
And I've been Jaymo. Game on, everyone.
I actually have one more thing to share that I couldn't figure out how to squeeze it into the episode.
Post-credit scene.
But try pronouncing Captain Falcon's name really fast.
Falcon.
Good.
Falcon.
Now watch this. Famicom. 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 Falcon. 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 Famicom. Falcon. You hear that?
Captain Falcon and because he was going to be the SNES mascot.
Yes, so he's Captain Famicom. If you say it really quickly, just remove the I from Famicom.
I'm so glad you said that. That's premium. That's beautiful. All right, everyone, welcome back to the Old Switcheroo, where we're talking gaming retro with Mike. And can I do that again? I just thought of a fun idea. Take two. Take two. This might not be worth it. Okay, here we go. Okay, take two.